Welcome back to the EV80 Kid podcast. Is Fisker in the biggest trouble they've ever been in? And how do you really charge a Honda Prologue? Your comments, the market report, some pretty terrible EV reviews that make no sense, and much, much more on this episode. Let's jump right in. I'm still on version 2.0, 1 of 2. I had a tech come out, assured me it was 2 of 2. Haven't received any updates since. After watching this video, I reached out again and they asked for my VIN. My vents are broken. AC might be blasting on 7 when I first turn the vehicle on. That's a 2.0 thing, and the only way to stop that is this process. Unlock the car, open the door, close the door, buckle your seatbelt, and then press the brake to turn it on. So the vehicle is ready to drive. If you don't go in that order, there's a likelihood it won't work right. I know that's a horrible answer, and I don't like to dictate how anyone enters or exits their vehicle, but until you get a 2.1 or 2.2, that's just how it is. I haven't purchased a key fob. I appreciate what the FOA is trying to do, but not wanting to spend another $1 over what's needed. I totally get you on that. Is the water pump going to be installed by Fisker? No. You're going to be able to get your water pump somehow. Through the FOA, they'll figure out a way for you to get it. And then you'll have to go to a certified repair shop and have it done. And you'll have to pay for that labor. At least I believe that's still the deal. Earth to fun mode. Unfortunately, your vehicle is going to boot up in Earth mode every time, which is a tire killer. So switch to fun mode, earliest opportunity you get. Why do I need TomTom? I think we're going to find that out pretty soon. We received notice late Saturday through our legal counsel that the agreement between Fisker and TomTom may terminate as early as tomorrow, Monday, October 7th. TomTom did not specify which countries this termination will apply to, so out of an abundance of caution, we are informing all owners. We have been attempting to negotiate with TomTom regarding continuity of service. However, as long as their agreement with Fisker remained, they expected us to pay Fisker's $600,000 outstanding balance as a negotiating condition. Once Fisker's contract terminates, we hope to resume negotiations with a fresh start. We recognize this is concerning. We want to stress that the Ocean's infotainment system will remain functional, including navigation. What will be lost is live traffic data and speed limit indicator. So while the navigation in your car will continue working, you may want to consult a secondary source such as Google Maps or Waze before starting your trip to check for traffic. We hope this interruption of service will only be temporary and will continue working to negotiate with TomTom to restore service in the near term, as well as exploring alternative avenues for the future. We will continue to keep you all informed as the situation develops. As a side note, 600,000 divided by 3,000 people is $200. 200 divided by 12 months is $16.67. And I'm not saying this was the right answer, but had the FOA launched dues already and added $16 a month for 1 year to the dues, they could have paid TomTom back and offered complete and total continuity. Let me also read from the home page of FiskerOA.com. The Fisker Owners Association is a dedicated community and resource hub to help owners connect, get, and stay informed, tackle technical and practical challenges, and access resources associated with ocean ownership. We're passionate about our vehicles and committed to supporting each other to keep our ocean on the road for years to come. $16.67 a month for 1 year. And you could have promised navigation continuity as an incentive for adoption. How do you feel about that? Let me know down below. A new MIT study is out that suggests that putting EV charging stations near businesses increases the traffic to those businesses. Yes. A few thoughts about Rural Reimagined. West Virginia, in particular, has been sitting on millions of dollars in funding for EV charging infrastructure for years at this point. I have evidence that WVU and Marshall both have a total of around, between the two of them, $2 million to invest in charging. They have done absolutely nothing. I have reached out to the Secretary of Transportation at WVU for comment, and I'll let you know if they get back to me. Also, this comment mentions EVGo reliability, which is definitely an issue. I had a commenter also say that their EVGo works, except that the nearest EVGo to them where they said they were located has a 350 kilowatt stall that is currently offline. EVGo's reliability, from my experience, is not good, and why they got this $1 billion in funding is definitely challenging to understand at best. What are your thoughts on the EVGo funding? Also, as far as the NEVI funding is concerned, it itself, in order to get money from the NEVI fund, you have to actually request money from the NEVI fund, which West Virginia refuses to do. This is the name of the person that is personally responsible for doing that and has refused to do so. So if you'd like to, I don't know, reach out to someone in West Virginia and help me in the quest of understanding why this is going on, please feel free. I'm totally perplexed myself. I think GM is correct on the warranty. This is the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act that is totally a law, saying that you can't adjust a warranty post-warranty to exclude or include things. And until there's a UL standard, which is proposed right now, on exactly what is or isn't acceptable as far as a charging adapter, GM cannot modify a warranty. If your charging system fails or your battery system fails, those are warranty parts, and they have to be replaced. Besides, how do you know what adapter was used? You could have borrowed yours from a friend, a perfectly acceptable GM branded adapter. You can't arbitrarily void a warranty. And if they void your warranty, well, it's time to call a lawyer because you may be entitled to compensation. I had a commenter said that they got a Prologue and took it on a multi-state road trip, and the road trip was cut short. The Prologue started giving me service brake system and other braking warnings on the dash, disc braking not working right, so I brought it into the dealer. There's another on there for 44 days that needs a new master cylinder. Mine has 1,800 miles on it. There are issues with the Honda Prologue and the Blazer EV that are kind of bricking these cars, for lack of a better term, around 1,200 to 2,000 miles. Some of them involve the internal charger, some of them are air conditioning related, and there are others. I haven't experienced anything personally, but what have you found out? Let me know your Prologue experiences down in the comments below, and reach out to me at adamsevreviews@yahoo.com with your story. I would be happy to investigate and try to find a solution for you. I tried the adapter today, but it did not charge. I don't know how to make a setting in the Tesla application. I identified the car as you showed in the video, but nothing happened. My car is Honda Prologue 2024. You're not the first person who's told me they can't charge. Let's go through the steps. First, you download the Tesla app. Then you create a Tesla account. Yes, you can create a Tesla account if you don't have a Tesla. Every person who ever bought a Tesla had to get the app and create an account first. Set up your payment under Manage Payment. Select Blazer EV 2024 under Vehicle Details and indicate you have the NACS adapter. Then go to Charge Your Other EV or Charge Your Non-Tesla EV in the event that you don't have a Tesla. I don't know exactly what it will say if you don't have a Tesla because I have one. Then you go to the map, and the map must show the supercharger you are charging at. If it's not on the map under Charge Your Other EV, you can't use that supercharger. Then select the correct supercharger, the one you're at. Then select your post number. Then follow your adapters and the Tesla app's instructions. If you don't have Electron adapter or an A to Z EV adapter, I'm also not going to guarantee anything at all is going to work. Those are the only two that I have seen by credible sources being tested in credible ways. Do not buy one on Amazon. And if you do, you are risking everything. That being said, the final issue is you may think you have an adapter that's an AC adapter for this DC charging session. If the Tesla plug doesn't fit into your adapter, it's either defective, the adapter that is, or you're using an AC adapter for your DC charging. You need the two lower pinholes on the bottom. If they're not there, that's not the right adapter. Now let's prove the superchargers still work. It is October the 7th in this video. I'm charged to 75 right now. Just set it to 80. Let's go to the charger. All right, here we are, Supercharger 1A. Let's see what happens. All right. Open up the port. This time it's the A to Z. First time using it. And I don't know. I can't get it to go into the port. Yeah, it won't go into the port. So let's see what we're doing wrong here. Lift, push. There it went. Well, I don't like that. Okay, can I get it out? Man, that is a tight fit. I do not like that. Okay, well, if you push down and push in enough. Oh, man. Boy, that's not good. I do not like that. But it's in there. All right, here is a screen recording of what I went through. I selected the charger, I hit charge here, I pressed 1A, I hit start charging. It says attach adapter and plug in. And it took me a while to get everything plugged in, but I ended up plugging in the Tesla cord into the adapter before I put it into my vehicle, and that made everything way easier. So even though the A to Z says to put it in the vehicle first, it's way, way, way easier to put it on the cable first and then put the cable and the adapter into the car at the same time. Here's the charge initiating. Once again, it's working. Thank you all to the Never Going Back folks from last week. I really appreciate that. There are lots of us out here who will never go back to a gas car from EV. The car itself would cost about the same, and we'd still be paying for oil changes and occasional gas on top of paying a bit more on electricity, since it's not quite as efficient there. This is in comparison to a plug-in hybrid. I'm still waiting for a small electric truck for work. The Telo truck is looking really good in teaser form, hoping the final product to be as good as they're dreaming it will be. Great feedback. Definitely never going back myself. However, as a previous Fisker owner, I can't recommend a first vehicle from a startup. If Telo is going to succeed, they need extensive pocket depth. When legacy manufacturers start building small trucks, we will be in a completely new era of automobiles. It's the chicken tax conundrum. I hope that the service centers are able to get the necessary tools to unbrick cars. Referring to my Fisker King interview, my experience has been everything was great until it wasn't. I very much enjoyed driving my Fisker Ocean 1 until it stopped going into gear from apparently a bad software push or mysteriously failed component. My vehicle has sat in my garage since September 9th and can't be moved. If I can get it working again, my plan is to enjoy it as I was prior to it failing. This is going to be the experience with the Fisker Ocean. It's an electric vehicle, so there's not a ton of maintenance, but there are a ton of little tiny quirks and problems that normally a manufacturer would sort out, but they don't exist. And we'll get into deeper Fisker company news here soon, but your experience with your Fisker may be very, very excellent and very, very frustrating. Nobody who took delivery of the car thought they would not be able to get service, thought the prices would be cut in half less than a year after the first car was delivered, and exactly 1 year after that first car was delivered, they would file for bankruptcy. And if someone did know that this was going to happen, they would be so rich from shorting the shares, they could buy the Fisker mansion and the company's IP and make their own new version of Fisker. This is the kind of feedback that I got when I first started predicting Fisker's bankruptcy, along with many others in like November when the shares just continued to tumble. And even though I did take delivery of my vehicle, I knew I was taking a huge risk. But the minute I realized that the risk would also involve losing warranty coverage, potentially extremely expensive insurance, no parts availability, the parts being available being extremely expensive, the Fisker Ocean was an affordable way to get from A to B in the best looking footprint possible. When that affordable part went away, I was no longer interested. I would never own a Honda Prologue if it wasn't for the Fisker Ocean, so there is a silver lining because I'm really happy to be experimenting with that car and enjoying being one of the first owners, so I don't have many regrets. But none of the original people got into this thinking service wasn't going to exist and the company would immediately file for bankruptcy. But let's move on. We have to talk about the Juicebox thing. First of all, Juicebox is gone. The Enel X company, which there were some really big holes in West Virginia's charging infrastructure that were filled by Enel X, so super disappointing there. For right now, it's a pretty scary deal, and if you have a Juicebox, it's not working because, well, Juicebox no longer exists. That app has been disabled, that server is down, you're not going to be able to schedule charging. Your smart charger is now a dumb charger. So I'm really sorry to those who have Juicebox and the Enel X Way app and all of that stuff. But if you're a regular viewer of this channel, you know that's not the end of the story for me. I, of course, went digging for a solution, and I found one. Zero Impact Solutions has a way to migrate software from a proprietary Enel X setup to a OCCP-compliant management software that allows the commercial customers that were completely booted from functionality to get back online. And of course, I'm not going to wait for my West Virginia dealerships to re-enable their X-Way through the grapevine or word of mouth. I called Zero Impact Solutions myself, as well as my 2 dealerships in West Virginia that have Enel X charging, one in Summersville, Northside Chevrolet, and the other, Midstate Chevrolet, the largest volume Chevy dealer in West Virginia, located basically right in the middle of the state, hence the name. They stock them deeper and sell them cheaper. That's not a joke, it's their real slogan, and I like it. But I got a hold of those dealerships, and then I followed the breadcrumbs on the Business Insider article and got a hold of somebody at Zero Impact Solutions that can start this process. Both of those dealerships are currently getting in touch with Zero Impact Solutions, and the 2 Enel X chargers should be back online as soon as the logistics permit. Obviously, there's going to be a long line of people wanting to do this, and if you know of an owner of an Enel X charger who would like to get in line for a software conversion, call Zero Impact Solutions at 818-877-7781 or info@zi.solutions. I hope I saved you some time. Long story short, we have another silver lining. I have a commenter expressing their frustration with the Honda Prologue user interface. There are no good interfaces in EVs with the exception of Tesla, and then Rivian is definitely a close second. I think Lucid's also had some improvements as well, especially from the initial launch. But let me know what you drive and how your interface works. I'd appreciate that very much down in the comments. As a first-time EV owner who bought the Honda Prologue a week ago and am planning my first road trip, this video confused the living crap out of me 0 stars. It was a video to determine the 70-mile-an-hour range of the Honda Prologue and not to explain how to plan for a road trip. I showed you how I planned for a road trip specific to this 70-mile-an-hour range test, but it is not the way I actually take a road trip. I will show you exactly how I actually take a road trip in an upcoming video. I think it's probably something I should address. This commenter later stated that they took away the 0 stars portion of the comment and are watching my other videos for more information. I appreciate you giving me another shot. And now we have to talk about the SEC investigation. And let's just go through it. My last EV Etiquette podcast, I mentioned that shares would be retired permanently and you don't get anything, and there were still people who did not believe me, but I hope that the Securities Exchange Commission, using the exact same verbiage as myself, would help boost your confidence in my analysis of the bankruptcy case. But for the avoidance of doubt, to use a legal term, let's go through it anyway. The US SEC objects to the combined disclosure statement and Chapter 11 plan of liquidation of Fisker Inc. Remember, yes, it's in Chapter 11, but the liquidation will eventually go to Chapter 7, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's inevitable. First, the plan contains a non-consensual third-party release, and based on the Harrington versus Purdue Pharma decision, an opt-out form is insufficient evidence of shareholder consent. Second, the plan must contain language, which we'll get into, to adequately preserve the Commission's police and regulatory powers with respect to its pending investigation, including the preservation and production of corporate records. So we kind of figured something like this was going to happen when the SEC probe came out, but this is the actual horse's mouth. A TechCrunch article says insufficient language protecting its ability to pursue the company, as well as no mention of how or even if Fisker plans to preserve its corporate records. There's an undetermined amount for litigation, so let's dive a little deeper. The combined disclosure statement and plan of liquidation. The plan is a liquidating plan, which creates 2 trusts, a liquidating trust and an IP Austria Assets Trust. The liquidating trust will hold the debtor's rights in remaining assets other than the IP Austria assets and the preserved estate claims. The IP Austria Assets Trust will hold the debtor's IP and assets and the Austria assets. Pursuant to Article 8 of the plan, each trust is entitled to share in a percentage of the recoveries obtained by the other trust. Here's what I was talking about on my last podcast. Only creditors in classes 3 and 4 will receive interests in one of the trusts. The debtor's equity holders, class 6, which includes holders of Fisker's publicly traded Class A common stock, will have their shares canceled and will not receive any distributions from either trust or otherwise under the plan. There it is, from the horse's mouth at the SEC, saying exactly what I said last week. I am not tooting my own horn. I just read all these documents just like they did. The plan contains a third-party release provision that purports to release claims by non-debtors against other non-debtors. Among the releasing parties are public shareholders in Class 6 who are not entitled to vote on or receive any recovery under the plan. The plan provides that any shareholder who fails to opt out will be deemed to consent to the release, and that's a no-go. The SEC then cites the provision that allows them to make this objection. Notwithstanding any provision or approval contained in this order, all arguments and objections with respect to whether the forms, notice, and procedure for the holders of equity interests to opt out of the third-party release are sufficient to establish consent are preserved in their entirety and may be raised in a timely filed objection to confirmation of the plan or final approval of the disclosure statement. This is what the SEC is taking advantage of in their objection. The debtors have sent shareholders one of two forms of notice advising shareholders of their non-voting status, Exhibits 4 and 5 to the plan procedures, collectively the opt-out forms. In order to validly opt out of the release, a shareholder must complete the opt-out form and return it so that it is actually received by the debtor's noticing agent by October 7th, 2024, 12 p.m., which is right now or later, depending on when you're watching this video, but it has come and gone. The Commission objects to the plan because first, it contains a non-consensual third-party release. Second, the plan must contain language to adequately preserve the Commission's police and regulatory powers with respect to its pending investigation, including the preservation and production of corporate records, which obviously is not included, or they wouldn't be objecting. Failure to opt out of a third-party release is insufficient evidence of consent. This is your Purdue Pharma case. The only basis for approving a non-debtor release that remains post-Purdue is an adequate showing by the plan proponent that the releasing party consents. Thus, consent required an affirmative act, voting to accept the plan, and a creditor who votes to reject the plan or abstains from voting may still pursue claims against third-party non-debtors. Consent to a third-party release requires, quote, some sort of affirmative expression of consent that would be sufficient as a matter of contract law, end quote. Creditors who were not solicited to vote on the plan lacked an affirmative expression of consent, and thus their silence in failing to object to the release was insufficient to bind them. The record in this case fails to support a finding under principles of contract law that Fisker shareholders who do not return an opt-out form consent to the third-party release. The plan cannot impair the Commission's police and regulatory powers. The plan must contain language to adequately preserve the Commission's police and regulatory powers with respect to its pending investigation. First, all claims by the Commission to enforce the Commission's police and regulatory powers must be preserved. Corporations have an obligation to preserve records and information that are relevant to a government investigation. The plan provides that certain assets will be transferred to the liquidating trust and other assets will be transferred to the IP Austria Assets Trust. The plan, however, does not specify what books and records might be transferred to either trust. The Commission staff has requested information from the debtors about where the debtors' books and records will be maintained and how they will be preserved post-effective date. To date, the Commission staff has not received any response. Typical Fisker job there. Looks like the SEC has been Fiskered. In order to ensure that the Commission's police and regulatory powers are preserved, the Commission requests that the following provision be included in the confirmation order. Preservation of SEC, police, and regulatory powers. Notwithstanding any provision to the contrary, nothing in the plan supplement, or this confirmation order shall 1. Release, enjoin, or discharge any monetary or non-monetary claim, right, or cause of action of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission against any debtor or non-debtor person or entity, including any released party, or prevent, restrict, limit, enjoin, or impair the SEC from commencing or continuing any investigation, action, or proceeding against any debtor or any non-debtor person or entity, including any released party, in any non-bankruptcy forum with appropriate jurisdiction. The SEC shall not be a releasing party under the plan. In addition, notwithstanding any provision in the plan supplement, or this confirmation order to the contrary, including the rejection of any executory contract or unexpired lease, all documents, electronically stored information, and other books and records of the debtors, whether in the debtor's possession or control or in the possession or control of any vendor retained by the debtors or their counsel for the purpose of responding to subpoenas or document requests by the SEC, shall be maintained and preserved after the effective date, including payment of any associated costs until either further court order with at least 14 days prior advance notice to the SEC staff or written agreement of the SEC staff. The debtors, liquidating trustee or IP Austria Assets trustee as applicable, shall work with the SEC staff to produce any requested or subpoenaed documents subject to any applicable privileges and defenses. Wherefore, the Commission respectfully requests entry of an order denying confirmation of the plan for the reasons stated herein. So what does this all mean? When you sign up for basically anything, there's terms and conditions. And the terms and conditions of a Disney Plus trial initially prevented a woman's family from suing Disney Plus in a wrongful death suit. And most recently, a minor used her parents' phone to order Uber Eats. And those terms of service also had an arbitration clause which prevents lawsuits from being filed and arbitration to be forced, which is private and binding and saves money on court costs. What Fisker is trying to do here is establish those same terms and conditions for shareholders. Basically, you're done. You have no more rights. You can't go after any other third parties. And that's mentioned here, third parties, which would be, I don't know, individuals who had, let's say, very high positions at Fisker and maybe even, I don't know, decision-making abilities. The SEC, based on recent legal precedent, has decided to object to an opt-out clause that locks shareholders out of basically everything. Now, will the SEC get anything monetary for shareholders in general? Probably not. But what they will do is allow shareholders to have an opportunity to take additional legal action by preserving the records of Fisker, and hopefully, if their objection is taken into account and some kind of change is applied by the court, give shareholders a chance to pursue third parties in the event wrongdoing can or would be established. And if you want to know what the actual plan is as far as the numbers, I went over that very specifically in a previous video. You can go to this timestamp and check that out here. So Fisker was trying to force this through to hide documents. And the SEC may go after Fisker as a company and, based on the information in this objection, may go after other individuals, companies, associated parties around Fisker as well. So if you were hoping for justice, this may be the first step. What do you think about the SEC investigation? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And the SEC isn't the only agency on Fisker's tail. Fisker's plan to make owners pay for recall repairs is illegal, DOJ says. The DOJ, on behalf of NHTSA, said in a filing submitted to Fisker's bankruptcy docket Monday that the scheme violates the National Traffic and Motor Safety Act in multiple ways. The agency told the court that it therefore objects to Fisker's proposed settlement plan, which lays out steps to liquidate the remainder of the company. That plan could be confirmed by a judge as early as Wednesday during a previously scheduled hearing. Look out! Fisker did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Who would be Fisker at this point? Let's go to the document. The debtor's plan creates a liquidating trust to liquidate and distribute certain estate assets, but only to the extent the cost of such action, quote, does not exceed $750,000, end quote. And that wouldn't have been in there without the FOA, so thanks FOA for that. And I'm being genuine, there would be no $750,000 without the FOA in my opinion. The plan does not guarantee funding for all costs required to address the door handle and June 26th stop sale hold recalls. Instead, the plan provides in Article 8E4 that vehicle owners cover labor expenses for recall repairs, and then at some later point, they may be reimbursed for out-of-pocket costs through the FOA. The amended DS and plan are forbidden by the Safety Act. Pursuant to Section 1129A3 of the Bankruptcy Code, a court shall not confirm a plan only if it is not by any means forbidden by law. The debtor's amended plan includes provisions forbidden by the Safety Act, which specifically requires manufacturers to remedy defective and non-compliant vehicles, quote, without charge when the vehicle is presented for remedy. End quote. Number 10, Article 8E, perhaps in an attempt to comply with the Safety Act, impermissibly provides that consumers will at some future date be reimbursed for the costs. This owner reimbursement scheme compounds Fisker's ongoing violation of the Safety Act. To comply with the Safety Act, the debtors must amend the plan to permit Fisker's ongoing remediation efforts without any financial caps, including remedying its prior violations through the repayment of owners who paid out of pocket for recall services. Number 12, should Fisker fail to provide Alongside these ongoing remediation efforts, NHTSA may have a priority claim against the estate. Congress provided that NHTSA has the right to file a claim against the estate or the debtor's outstanding or incomplete recall obligations, and that claim will have priority above at least priority and general unsecured claims. Uh-oh, they're coming after the money if you don't fix it anyway. This just makes me laugh thinking back on how hard Heights Capital fought to make sure absolutely no money was spent on anything. And here comes NHTSA for the money anyway. I love it. Number 13, the United States opts out of any third-party non-debtor limitation of liability, discharge, injunction, exculpation, and release provisions set forth in Article 12 and elsewhere in the plan. Basically saying that you can release whoever you want, but you're not releasing us. Whole bunch of codes being cited. Number 18 is also police and regulatory powers. The United States objects to the plan to the extent that it improperly bars the United States from exercising its police or regulatory powers. As a liquidating plan, the debtors are not entitled to a discharge or injunction. The plan may not enjoin the United States from seeking non-monetary relief. Conclusion: for the foregoing reasons, the United States requests 1. The amended DS and plan either be revised so that it complies with the Safety Act or otherwise rejected. 2. The plan's confirmation order include language preserving the United States federal interests. And 3. Any further relief as the court deems necessary and just. I don't think this plan's going to get approved. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments. Next, we need to do the market report. Based on what I was able to find, my suspicions have been confirmed. Carvana is not the place to shop for electric vehicles when the market is hot, and it is still hot right now. In fact, let's go look at a Ford Mustang Mach-E. These can be had for around $20,000. There's many options. I particularly like this red one. Even though it is rear-wheel drive, it's a beautiful example, and that's a great price. $3,300 under market. Next, we should probably talk about the Cybertruck. Because my reservation was stupid early for this thing, and I obviously am not buying a $100,000 one, they've now offered me an $80,000 one. And I thought there was a tax credit because I got all excited. I got on here, I start clicking through stuff, I'm looking at the fees and the price, and there's this commercial clean vehicle tax credit. Sounds great, except it has to be for your business, hence the commercial part. So there is no tax credit for the Cybertruck, at least right now. Why? Well, I don't know. But that's just the brakes. With all that in mind, it's $82,135 if you take the stripped down, absolutely nothing extra. And I think that's probably all there is to share about the Cybertruck right now. Let me know what your thoughts are down below. And TechCrunch is really on the ball with the Fisker articles. Fisker's HQ abandoned in, quote, complete disarray with apparent hazardous waste clay models left behind. The headquarters Fisker used in its waning days was recently abandoned and left in complete disarray with drums of apparent hazardous waste, automotive equipment, and even vehicles and full-size clay models left behind. The chaos was described in a new filing that was submitted Friday afternoon, LaPalma Properties. With respect to leases of real property, a, quote, reasonable description of any property being abandoned on the subject premises. The premises were turned over to Shamrock's representative by debtors on September 27, 2024. After taking possession of the premises, Lenzini performed an inspection of the premises and took photographs. Despite initial assurances from Huron that it planned to clear everything out by September 27th and leave the premises as clean as possible, the premises were left in complete disarray with substantial debris scattered. Furthermore, personal property was apparently abandoned on the premises to such an extent it appears as though the premises were ransacked. Additionally, there appears to be a substantial amount of hazardous waste that someone has apparently attempted to abandon to Shamrock. LaPalma has been left in complete disarray. Shamrock now faces tens of thousands of dollars in cleanup costs, damage repairs, and what appears to me to be a hazardous waste removal. I observed two 50 to 55 gallon drums where I believe one references oil and the other coolant. There appears to be oil in another funnel stand device and various other bottles of chemicals on two tables. There are also approximately 20 automotive-sized batteries that have been left on site. My concern is that I do not know what chemicals have been left, and my estimate as to costs are based upon my decades of experience as a property owner representative. Number 19, it appears that HGB or debtors left a substantial amount of property at the premises hazardous waste, and either one or both engaged in conduct that resulted in the spread of debris that will cause Shamrock to bear unnecessary additional future costs. In addition to the hazardous waste, several clay models, potentially weighing hundreds or thousands of pounds, sounds, cabinets, tables, chairs, and more litter on the premises. As noted above, the rejection notice also describes the property to be abandoned merely as miscellaneous personal property. I think that is a little bit of an understatement. Shamrock objects to the rejection notice first because the description of the abandoned property is inadequate and apparently incomplete. Office equipment, furniture, hazardous waste, appliances, papers, boxes, pictures, cabinets, compressed gas bottle, pallets, car parts, cabling, a large metal frame of some sort, clay models of cars, and parts of cars. Number 24, additionally, Fisker vehicles were left in the premises parking lot. There's got to be photos, right? Yeah, here we go.
Catastrophic, catastrophic, catastrophic.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This is great. And while we scan through these, I'll just let you know that this kind of thing, I can't deny, is part of the reason I had to abandon my Fisker Ocean. And you made it to the end of the video, which means it's time for a hastily edited rant. And finally, because I have experienced the Ioniq 5N in person, and I really, really like it, as well as it looks like the Ioniq 5N is still in high demand, a YouTube channel recently called the Ioniq 5N a gimmick. Question mark in the title. And I'm not going to show any footage from the video or tell you what the name of the channel is or even show you how to find the video, because they are the type of channel that would definitely sue me if I made any mistakes. So we're just going to call it The Channel. And this is complete irony because the theme of their channel is just being like honest and to the point and direct and exact. But I'm going to prove right now that's not true when it comes to EVs, especially the Ioniq 5N. You know this kind of channel. The gas cars are 100 years old, so there's absolutely no way there's anything that could ever be better ever for any aesthetic, performance, or other reason. You know, the guy in the chair meme. So I'm just going to fact check some of the narrative that this channel is trying to establish about the Ioniq 5N. First, the channel mentions red flags but doesn't enumerate any of them. And then there's a vicious attack on the engine sound. The channel spends almost the entire test of the engine sounds in the supersonic setting, probably because this list of cars, and there's plenty more that aren't on the list because there's so many now, also falsely amplify or fabricate engine sounds. Quote, "It's so synthetic and it's purposely not real," end quote. Quote, "If they could emulate real engine sounds," end quote. Busted. In Hyundai's reference materials, which they claim to have access to, the quote, "ignition theme simulates the sound of N's 2.0 turbo engines." That's the Elantra N. That's a real car. The Evolution theme captures the signature high-performance sound inspired by a concept car, and the Supersonic theme is inspired by twin-engine fighter jets offering variable volume during cornering. And Active Sound Plus is all about providing drivers with an acoustic reference to gauge the power that they are using in the car. You gotta stroke that confirmation bias, though. Gotta stroke it. You can make fun of the Ioniq 5N for not being a car all you want. It's a crossover SUV. But what that does is make it a practical vehicle. And if someone can afford an extra $150 to $250 a month to step up from the Ioniq 5 to the Ioniq 5N, well, they lose zero practicality. The reviewer, after smiling ear-to-ear grinning while they're shifting through the gears, then proceeds to walk back every single negative part of their narrative after the co-host points out all the positives and how the Ioniq 5N so accurately depicts the performance of a gas car. And then they take it to the track, which is a total exercise in hypocrisy and drama and complete and total narrative construction. The host accuses it of being horrible, but yet every single second of driving footage is laughing and grinning ear to ear, except during the specific dialogue of full complaints. And I understand driving feel and how driving a slow car fast is better than driving a fast car slow, but that's on public roads. If you're at the track, you're there for the numbers, and you're pushing the limit for the times. That's why you have a helmet on. I can also understand how a first experience on a track for an Ioniq 5N could be bad, but that's because there are so many settings. And just like when you get in your first EV, it takes a couple weeks to get used to what settings you like and how you want it to ride or feel or behave or be physically set so you can be comfortable. And with the Ioniq 5N, you need to do the exact same thing to make sure that your skill level matches the settings that you can obviously change infinitely on this car. So a first run on the track, yeah, it's not going to be good, especially if you just got a chance to go there really quickly in an afternoon. But we don't really have to worry about that. Let's talk about other cars that have around the same 0 to 60 time. That's like 3 to 3.1 seconds and 3.2 in a couple examples. The Audi RS6 Avant, Bentley Bentayga Speed, BMW M3 CS, the C8 Corvette, that's the only real actual competition here money-wise. The Ferrari Portofino M. And yes, I can't even include the Puro Sangue because it's too slow. The Hummer EV, the Lamborghini Huracan, the Lucid Air Touring, that one's close in price. And since I didn't include it in last week's market report, here's a used one I found, a Lucid Air Touring, the one that has the same 0 to 60 time as the Ioniq 5N. The McLaren GT, the Mercedes AMG SL63, the Porsche Taycan Turbo, the Rivian Adventure R1T quad motor, and of course, the winner of the budget speed in all aspects, the Tesla Model 3 Performance. What are your thoughts on the Ioniq 5N? And also, how deep do you think this narrative goes that the feel and the performance no longer has anything to do with speed? There's some kind of holy grail of driving perfection that only gas cars can provide. Let me know your thoughts down below. And of course, let me get a "that's not true" down in the comments if you think this whole gas cars are always going to be better thing is stupid. And that's all for this episode of the EV80Kit podcast. Join Patreon or become a YouTube member for early access to videos. Check out EV80Kit.com and grab yourself a sticker for your charge port. I've also included surprises in every order, and if you want to know what those are, you'll just have to head on over to the website. Subscribe for more. We'll see you on the next one.
Hey, smash the like button.
Thank you.